How did organized crime operate with impunity during the 1950s while the FBI supposedly hunted them? The answer involves the FBI director, a lawyer named Roy Cohn, and compromising photographs at the Plaza Hotel. This is the story of Louis Rosenstiel, the liquor baron who built a blackmail empire that controlled the most powerful law enforcement official in America. Louis Rosenstiel made his fortune during Prohibition, supposedly selling shoes and bonds, but somehow he afforded a vacation to the French Riviera in 1922, where he had a chance meeting with Winston Churchill, who advised him to prepare for the return of liquor sales. After Prohibition ended, Rosenstiel's Manhattan home became a gathering place for American organized crime's elite. Frequent dinner guests included Frank Costello, Sam Giancana, Santo Trafficante, and Meyer Lansky. Meyer Lansky had a special nickname for Rosenstiel, Supreme Commander. So did Rosenstiel's attorney and close friend, Roy Cohn. But Rosenstiel wasn't just hosting social events. According to testimony given under oath by one of his ex-wives, Rosenstiel had installed microphones throughout his Manhattan home, from roof to basement, to record conversations for potential blackmail. The system was installed by Fred Otash, an infamous private detective who had previously used electronic surveillance to spy on the Kennedy family and Marilyn Monroe. In 1958, Rosenstiel's fourth wife, Susan Kaufman, accompanied her husband to a party at the Plaza Hotel. The party was hosted by Roy Cohn in one of the hotel's largest suites, done all in light blue. When they arrived, Kaufman was shocked to see FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover wearing women's clothes and a wig. Roy Cohn introduced him as Mary, while barely concealing his laughter. After a few drinks, Kaufman witnessed young blonde boys around 18 or 19 years old arrive at the suite. Roy Cohn signaled it was time to move to the bedroom. Sexual activities ensued between the boys, Cohn and Hoover. Kaufman later testified that her husband possessed photographs of Hoover in women's clothing. Those photographs were passed to Meyer Lansky. During the 1950s, organized crime was under intense pressure from the Kefauver Committee investigations. The mob needed protection, and now they had it. The FBI director, the man supposedly leading the fight against organized crime, was being blackmailed by the very criminals he was meant to prosecute. This wasn't an isolated incident. Two additional male witnesses corroborated that Hoover had a habit of cross-dressing at different times and places. Roy Cohn later laughed about the incident, telling Kaufman that Mary Hoover attended his parties regularly. Cohn would arrive at the Plaza first, carrying Hoover's female clothes in a suitcase. This explains everything. Why did Meyer Lansky, despite being one of the most notorious organized crime figures in America, die a free man in 1983? Why did the mob operate Las Vegas casinos for 35 years without significant federal interference? Because they had insurance. Photographs of the FBI director in compromising positions held by Meyer Lansky, facilitated by Roy Cohn, orchestrated in Louis Rosenstiel's bugged mansion. When Rosenstiel retired in 1968, he sold his controlling interest in Schenley Industries and resigned as chairman. He also sold his Manhattan townhouse, the one wired for blackmail, to Israeli-American businessman Meshulam Riklis. Roy Cohn would continue operating blackmail operations for decades, the same Roy Cohn who later became Donald Trump's attorney and mentor, the same Roy Cohn who was Nancy Reagan's confidant. This is how power really works. Not through legitimate law enforcement but through blackmail, surveillance, and compromising photographs. The mob didn't avoid prosecution because they were clever. They avoided it because they controlled the prosecutor. Louis Rosenstiel learned to bug his home for blackmail. Roy Cohn learned to host compromising parties. Jeffrey Epstein later employed the same methods on a much larger scale. The techniques don't change, only the players. The court testimony and sworn statements are all public record. This isn't speculation. It's documented history that was buried for decades. If you want to understand how organized crime, intelligence agencies, and political power really intersect, you're watching the right channel.